NHL trade deadline is coming up. I want to say in 4 days on 4 days on Friday. So we're getting really close to the final stretch of the NHL season. Now, a lot of the teams that are in playoffs are looking to add, nice pieces on the depth, whether it's, yeah, like I said, whether it's depth, whether it's defense, goaltending, maybe a number one center, you never know. But as we get towards the NHL trade deadline, teams like the Rangers, the Bruins, the Dallas Stars, the Colorado Avalanche, they're looking to buy, whereas teams like the Anaheim Ducks, Detroit, no, not even Detroit. I want it, probably Montreal, definitely the Sens, teams that are looking to probably sell. So I'm going to go through a bunch of the trade deadline teams that I think honestly should either buy, sell, and what they should do. I'm not going to go through every single team because that's going to be way too long. But I'll go with the big teams and like the teams that are highly talked about. Like I'm going to go over definitely the Leafs for sure because we are in Toronto at this point, right? So, and they're obviously the hottest topic or hottest team in the National Hockey League when it comes to Canadian hockey teams. So we'll go start with that. So actually, over the weekend, I did end up going to watch the Leafs Rangers play live at Scotiabank Arena. It was a really good game between two good playoff teams. Rempe fought Reeves. It was just a highlight of my day right there. I had a very good time. I ended up meeting Artemi Panarin at the Ritz Carlton. I saw a couple coach buses. I'm like, why not just go up there and see if we can meet a player? I see a couple Rangers fans there. Turns out I see Panarin come out. They say, "Hey Panarin, can you get a picture?" He had like the coldest fucking smile, or not even smile. Like he was just there doing his thing. He just did his little whatever. I did post that onto my Instagram, so you can go check that out there. But yeah, I met him there. Ended up going with my friend to the game. Had a very nice time. And the Leafs won in a shootout. That is the second game I've been to this season where the Leafs have beaten the team I was cheering for in the shootout. It happened in October with Montreal, and it happened again with the New York Rangers. But overall, it was a very good game, very exciting game. I thought both teams played really well. Rempe fought Reeves, like I said earlier. I think it was a matter of time in the game. Reeves was trying to get him a little engaged into that fight. And in the third period, Rangers down 3-2. Rempe decides to drop the gloves with Reeves. And I'd say it was a draw. It was pretty even. Neither guy looked like they ragdolled the other as some of the other fights we've seen in the league this season. But it was a very, very good game. So before we talk about the trade deadline stuff, I want to talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins. Last night against the Edmonton Oilers, they got shelled 6 goals against, and they were up. I think they were down 6-0 in the third period, but they got one. Okay, whatever. But I don't know what happened to the Pittsburgh Penguins going into this season. I had them either fourth or third in the Metro Division because think about it. You pick up the Norris Trophy winner from last year. He was on the Sharks and he put up, I want to say it was like 105 points in like 80 something games. I'm not sure if he played the full 82, but impressive enough that he was on a rebuilding team and he was somehow getting 100 points last season. So the Pittsburgh Penguins acquire him in a 3-team trade last. It was in the summer, August or July. They made the trade. However, this year it has not turned out the way that most Pittsburgh Penguins fans expected. I've got a couple Penguins fans. My cousins are Penguins fans, but yeah, they definitely did not see the way Pittsburgh would be this season right now. Yeah, it's been very depressing in Pittsburgh for this team. You got a guy like Sidney Crosby, 36 years old, putting the team on his back. He's got 30, like close to 35 goals, I want to say now. And he's put the team on his back. Malkin, I have not seen Malkin. I've been saying for the past couple years that he's washed and he's nowhere near where he used to be. And they're proving me to be right because I haven't seen Malkin really do anything at all this season, really. Maybe in the beginning when they were like hot, but this Western Canadian trip and Seattle trip it didn't go so well. So they ended up playing the Vancouver Canucks in Vancouver. They had a good game there where they ended up winning in overtime. They go into Seattle's building and they end up getting shut out by Philip Grubauer was the goalie, or it was either Decord or it was Grubauer, but they got shut out. I think it was 2-0. They go into Calgary, Hockey Night in Canada. I mean, I think it was written in stone that they were going to lose that game. Calgary had a big night and they won 4-3 with a minute left. Kadri scored an absolute beautiful goal. He went from his own end, put it through a couple defenders, came in around, just slid it through the net, through the goalie, and they beat the Penguins. The following night, they played the red hot Edmonton Oilers, who are still kicking around, trying to get. I mean, they're actually going to compete for first now. They are only, I want to say, they're like 7 points back from the Canucks, and the Canucks haven't been that great in the past week, 2 weeks. So this would be a good time for Edmonton to get those wins up. So they play the Edmonton Oilers. Nedeljkovic is starting for the Penguins, and it was a disaster. They got shelled. They were just outplayed. Their power play has been atrocious. It's been killing them all year. They did absolutely nothing in this game against the Edmonton Oilers, and the Edmonton just made them look like in like a minor hockey league team. They just they just absolutely killed them. I mean, McDavid, Draisaitl, like they have to create that, like they have to carry that team, not necessarily, but they even the depth guys on the Oilers, like Perry scored, like McLeod was having a good game, Fogle was having a good game, CC scored a goal, like that, like the entire team just put a beating on the Penguins. Now it's sparking rumors. I saw Paul Bissonnette on Twitter saying Crosby to Colorado confirmed. I mean, who wouldn't love to see McDavid and McKinnon and Crosby tear it up in the Central Division, try and go for another cup this year? But I don't know what has to be done. Now, I've come up with my own theory on what needs to change, and I think it's got to be Mike Sullivan has to go. First of all, he's been there so long, right? To a point where if you're not winning the games you should be winning, especially now when you get the Norris Trophy winner from last year, I think it's time where you gotta like I think the players are just not responding to what he has to say. Now I don't know the room obviously, and I don't know what they say in there, what is being said, but I think it's time that the Penguins at the end of the season, I think it's too late to fire him now. There's no point. But at the end of the season, I think it's time you have to move on to another coach. And if you really want to try and make the playoffs, you gotta get Crosby, Malkin, and Letang to buy in again for yet another season, because I don't think they're thrilled at all that they're probably going to be missing two back-to-back playoffs for the first time in their careers, because Crosby's missed the playoffs. I want to say just last year he missed the playoffs, and maybe in his rookie season. And yeah, like I don't know what the Penguins need to do. Like I said, just fire the coach, fire Mike Sullivan, and bring someone else in. I mean, it's worked for other teams this season, as we can tell, with like examples of the Edmonton Oilers. I want to say the Kings as well. They're playing pretty well. So we'll see what happens with Pittsburgh in the offseason. Now, Gensel is definitely on the trade block for this trade deadline. A lot of teams have inquired, especially the Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes, from what I'm hearing. But I don't think Pittsburgh is rushing to trade him, as it seems, because I would love to hear more offers or just like more teams be interested in him. He is a really good player that can definitely play on your top line. Teams that I could see him going to. Vegas definitely, because now that Mark Stone is placed on LTIR, Jack Eichel's also placed on IR, you can definitely afford to bring Gensel in with retained salary or salary retention. You could even try and bring in a Riley Smith back too. And then if I was Vegas, I'd send some of my picks back, because like this is the win mode now. You won last year. Why not try and go back to back? So if I'm the Vegas Golden Knights, I'm definitely one of those teams that is interested in Jake Gensel. Another team I could see is the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, they're already like a good team, but they're always that team in the playoffs where you like they can win a round, maybe two. They go to the conference final, and then they vanish. They just don't have the guys to score the goals. Now, Gensel, I feel like would be a great person or great addition to that team, because he can play on a line with Aho and Sveshnikov. Aho is more of like a playmaking center who can slide the puck over to Gensel, who's just a natural goal scorer. I think they could build up some good chemistry there, and he would fit really well into their system, especially Rod Brendamore's coaching style. So we'll see what happens with Jake Gensel. I mean, people are saying the Canucks, but I think the Canucks are done with trades. They got their piece with Lindholm. It's only a matter of time now before they I think they're done. Like they're just gonna go for the playoffs or go for the cup. They think they're gonna win, and they have a really good shot at winning too. But I think they're done. Any other teams? I don't think so. I think the only two teams I could see Gensel going to are definitely the Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes. And earlier, about I want to say this was 30 minutes before I started recording or whatever it was. Lindy Ruff got fired as the Devils coach. Now the Devils have to be like one of, if not the most disappointing team of the 2023-2024 season. High expectations. I had them winning the Metro Division. I had them coming first, just behind Toronto in points in the Eastern Conference. It's just been a disaster in New Jersey. They are not a good team. They lost Jack Hughes. You can argue they lost a lot of people due to injury, but yesterday's game against the LA Kings just proved that they're not making playoffs. They just got outperformed and outclassed by the LA Kings. The goaltending wasn't there. Dawes got pulled, I want to say, on after the fourth goal in the second period. Off, I think he let in 4 goals on 15 shots, 15, 16 shots, something like that. Not very good numbers by any means, but yeah, they lost Hamilton. He's been out for a while. It's really hard to lose your number one defenseman. And then Jack Hughes hasn't really been playing much this year. And then like the depth guys are just not doing anything. Like Meyer's starting to pick it up, but also the game against the Ducks, I want was that on Friday or Saturday? I think that was the nail in the coffin to ending the Devils season. And then like today, Lindy Ruff was reported that was fired from the team. He's now no longer the coach for the New Jersey Devils, and Travis Green is going to take over as the interim coach. So I mean, I think you're 22, 20 to 22 games away from finishing the season. I think personally it's a bit late to fire Lindy Ruff. I don't think now, like I think now that even if they were in talks with like to get Jacob Markstrom in as their goalie, I think firing Lindy Ruff now was kind of like a dumb decision. Now, as we've seen with other teams like the Oilers, the Wild, the Kings, when you fire your coach, apparently you just go on some kind of streak. So maybe the Devils will start to play better. Now, I don't know how like the players felt about Lindy Ruff, but last year when he came in or when he was there, they were chanting "Fire Lindy, Fire Lindy." And when it's September 2022, he ended up bringing that team like into the playoffs for the first time in a couple years since Taylor Hall was on the team in that 2018-19 or 20, I think it was 2017-18 where he won the Hart. But they fired Lindy Ruff and now they're going to go with Travis Green. Do I think they make the playoffs? No, I think that it's over for them. They have to catch the Flyers, who are I want to say are 7 points ahead, 6 points ahead. And if they want a wild card spot, they have to catch Tampa Bay Lightning and Detroit Red Wings, who I think have locked up both of those wild card spots. I don't think the Islanders get in, the Capitals don't get in, the Penguins certainly don't get in after what I said earlier. And the Devils, I'm going to include in that list too, because I think it's too late now and you've run out of time. You have 20 games, but like the Flyers can also go on like a good winning streak. Same with Tampa Bay, same with Detroit. I think it's too late now. If they wanted to get into the playoffs, their best choice is to trade for Jacob Markstrom. Not in the summer, not later, now. If you want to make playoffs now, you have to get Jacob Markstrom now. Goaltending has been an issue for that team all season. Last year in the playoffs, you got lucky with Schmid and Vanacek. Whatever. Vanacek is a mediocre goalie. Schmid's not doing it for you, and Dawes is not doing it for you either. You need an elite goaltender. Now, if I'm the Devils, I'm looking at a package in Calgary. They've made the deal with Toffoli before, which backfired because Sharon Govich is having a very good season in Calgary after a disappointing season with the Devils last season. It's now it just seems like the trade is just the Flames won. Everyone was just saying the Devils, oh, they fleeced the Flames for that, and then Sharon Govich just has more points than Tyler Toffoli this season. So, but if I'm the Devils, I'm looking to make another deal with the Flames where you can try and hopefully get Markstrom, but also I would try and go for Noah Hannafin too. If they really want to make playoffs, they need to get Dougie Hamilton's replacement until he comes back, which would be Noah Hannafin. He's a UFA at the end of the year, so you can re-sign him if you want. You can move on from some other defensemen you don't like. You get your goalie, who you can sign. Markstrom's definitely worth at least I would say $6 to $8 million. He is top five goalies in the league for sure. The way he's been playing really well so far for the Flames this year. And it sucks that he probably won't make playoffs with the Flames, but if he goes to the Devils, they might have an opportunity there. That's the only way the Devils can make the playoffs, in my opinion. But let's move on to the trade deadline. So the trade deadline is on Friday, March 8th, and it's getting intense. Alex Wennberg today for the Seattle Kraken was a healthy scratch due to trade related issues. So he could be traded by the end of tonight. We don't know. So I'm not going to go on to every other team because I want to do that with Justin next time, or if we get a pod out before the trade deadline, because we're going to have playoff predictions soon. So stay tuned for that. But now we're going to talk about the teams that I think, are looking to add the most. And the first team I'm considering is the Boston Bruins. So they have the best tandem in the league by far. They've got two number ones. They've got Swayman and they've got Allmark. Last year, they went into the playoffs with the best record we've ever seen in the NHL. I want to say they had 65, 66, 67, something like that wins. Mid 60 wins, which is impressive as hell. They go into this year without Bergeron and without Krejci. They lose Bertuzzi. They lose Taylor Hall. They lose Dmitry Orlov. They lose Garnet Hathaway, all in the offseason to free agency. So, how do you think the Bruins, who thought the Bruins were going to be good this year? Nobody. Me personally, I had them as I think it was the second wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. And they, like the Bruins always do, they never fail to amaze me, as they were first in the Eastern Conference for a long time, for a bit of the season. It's been more Florida and New York dominant now, especially over the past couple of weeks. But the Bruins, I've done it again. They're second in the division. They are top. I think they're third in the league or fourth in the league. They're in the top five for sure. And we never thought we'd see the day, especially when you lose Bergeron and David Krejci in the offseason. So obviously, what's their lacking issue? I think it's center depth. I mean, they have Charlie Coyle. You can't really roll, and Pavel Zacha. You can't. I mean, when you lose guys like Bergeron and Krejci, you have the experience, and replace that with Coyle and Zacha, you're really it's kind of lacking in the middle. So I personally think they should go after a guy like Adam Henrique, who can play with Marchand on that top line, who adds the depth in the middle, the defensive structure as well. Another guy I'd like to see them add is Noah Hannafin on the back end, and I think they're like on the left side, they're not as strong as they were because they did lose Orlov. Orlov was a really good piece that played with McAvoy last year. And I think if they can make a trade with the Calgary Flames, I think getting Noah Hannafin should be like definitely on their radar. I mean, if I was them, if I was Boston, I would have went for Elias Lindholm. That would have been the perfect guy you add on to your team. But if I was the Bruins, I'd go get Adam Henrique and I'd go get Noah Hannafin, something like that. Get a good defenseman and a center who can play top or second line. Here's what they have to do to trade. They have to, if they want to win the Stanley Cup this year, they need to trade either Jeremy Swayman or Linus Ullmark. Personally, they have to trade Ullmark. Why? Jeremy Swayman, first of all, has played the most out of the two in games this year. He's played definitely the most. And he's worked for it. He's an RFA who's looking to get paid like a decent contract. Ullmark, he's getting up there in age. He's getting older. He did have a good season with the Bruins, winning the Vezina. However, I think it's time you move on from him because you can get a lot of assets for him. A lot. A team that you can possibly trade him to, the Devils. They definitely need goaltending. The LA Kings as well. That would be a good option. You can get some good return for that. And the Edmonton Oilers. You can try and make a deal with the Edmonton Oilers because I feel like Edmonton could still use a better goalie. I know Skinner's like, he's playing good, but you need a guy who can guard the net and you can trust guarding the net. Skinner, he's been up and down all season. Sure, he's playing good now, but when it comes to playoffs and when you play a team like the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round, it's going to be a lot different. So Allmark is the guy that needs to be traded. You can get a decent backup in return if you'd like, but you honestly can just bring up a guy from the AHL to back Swayman up. You don't need two guys, like two goalies that are number ones in their respective as their respective players, but they need to trade Allmark. That's the only way they can bring in good assets and they can bring in players that will help them win the cup. Another team we want to look at is the New York Rangers. So at the game on Saturday, I noticed that their play was very good, but I want to say the third line, fourth line, I think they can add something to that to make them even better. Zibanejad, Trocheck, Kreider, Panarin, Fox, like those guys are running ship over there. Capo Caco has not been the player that we all thought he would be. He's taken a way long time to develop as a player. It's not working out clearly. Lafreniere has grown into his own, who has been amazing, especially losing Filipino too. After like the kid line had so much success 2 years ago in the playoffs, Lafreniere out of the three in the past year and a half, he has stepped up and he's becoming the player we expected him to become. Now, as for a player that I think they should go get, I think they need to replace Wheeler. I know Rempe is in the lineup now, but playoff time, I don't know if he'll be there. He is a rookie at the end of the day who just fights apparently, which is good in the playoffs if you go after a guy and get the team going. But I highly doubt that they're going to have him play in the first game of the playoffs. Who do I think they should go get? Well, there's been rumors today that I was looking at, according to Elliot Freeman on 32 Thoughts. Shout out to them. He was saying something about Alex Tuck being a rumor, or I don't know who it was. It was somebody saying that Alex Tuck could be a Rangers target, that the Sabres or the Rangers have contacted the Sabres about Alex Tuck. That to me is the perfect ad that the Rangers could use. Now, you could argue they need another center. That's okay. They have Zibanejad, they have Trocheck, and I don't even know who's playing up the middle for them on the third and fourth line at the moment. But as you can see, I think Tuck would be a fantastic addition to that team. Imagine a line with Kreider, Zibanejad, and Tuck as your first line. Tuck can even play first power play too if you want. He's a good player. Another player I've been really like adamant about signing if I'm the Rangers is Anthony Duclair. He is a guy that I've always liked watching play. He's only making $3 million over in San Jose. He's got a year left on his contract, so even if you don't want to re-sign him, you can just let him walk to free agency. He's the perfect trade target for the Rangers. Defense, I think they're fine. Goaltending, they're perfectly fine. They have Quick, who they just extended for another year, and Shesterkin, who's been the best goalie of in the past month and a half. So if I'm the Rangers, I'm looking to add some scoring depth. Anthony Duclair, Alex Tuck, or any kind of third line center that could help the third line help get more points. The next team I want to go over is I want to say the Colorado Avalanche. Now, the Colorado Avalanche, they're playing good. They've been shaky at times this season. They faced a lot of adversity. Devontae's called them out after a disappointing loss to the Blackhawks a few months back. McKinnon's playing out of his mind. He's got 105 points. So he's been playing really good. But what do the Avs need? Well, they just traded Curtis McDermott to the Devils for a pick. The Avalanche, honestly, like they could probably win the Stanley Cup. Gorgiev has not been like the guy this year. He's been very shaky many times, and I don't think he's going to be the guy that brings them to the Stanley Cup if they want to get there. They need another goalie. It cannot be Alexander Gorgiev. They don't have a proper backup either. So if I'm them, I'm looking to add a goalie, definitely, and maybe some kind of depth forward. They really don't need much. They really just, if they can get Gorgiev to play consistently, okay, fine, keep him. Just add a depth forward. But if he's shaky as he's been all season, I think you got to go out and get a goalie. There's lots of goalies in the market. I know they were talking to Fleury about it, but Minnesota doesn't seem like they want to move Fleury unless the offer is perfect that can help them in the future. I don't see the Wild getting rid of Fleury. Now, if the Colorado Avalanche get a goal, like another really good goalie, I want to say from maybe Allmark, maybe, I don't know, it could be anybody. There's a lot of guys that or a lot of options that the Colorado Avalanche, can go get at the deadline. But like I said, could be a goalie, just a depth player. The Florida Panthers are next on my list. They are looking to go back to the finals again and win this time. These guys, I thought, were going to miss playoffs. They were going to come into this year without Matthew Tkachuk, I believe. They lose Gudis. They lose, I want to say, Mark Stahl as well. So they lose a couple of veteran defense. Montour is going to come in injured, or Ekblad, one of those guys. And they are the best team in the National Hockey League right now. They're sitting at 82 points, 2 points above the next team in line or 3 points ahead, 2 points ahead of the New York Rangers for second in the league. So, what do the Panthers really need to add? Honestly, I think they could go for Gensel because I think they have the money to do so. That would definitely put them in contention to win the Stanley Cup. I already think they can win the Stanley Cup. But if they add a guy like Jake Gensel, that could really help. Bobrovsky, we already know, is going to be playing in the playoffs. You have no reason to get another goalie. Defense, I really wonder about the defense. I mean, they look really good. Lusterinen, Montour, Ekblad, they just look like a solid group of defense. They're playing really well defensively. They're not giving up a lot of opportunities. So I think they're fine. The only thing that I suggest is maybe getting a depth forward, like I said, or Jake Gensel. That will definitely put them on the map. But for me personally, the Panthers, I think, are built perfectly for the playoffs. Reinhart, Bennett, Barkov, Tkachuk, all of these guys are playing fantastic for the Florida Panthers, and they're a team to look out for in the playoffs. The last team I want to go over before we finish the podcast today, the Toronto Maple Leafs, Canada's team, quote unquote. These guys, man, I was looking at Cap Friendly. They don't have many picks at all for the next couple years. I think they've got one first round for next year, and that's it. Or sorry, for this year, 2024. And if they didn't even need to like get rid of all their picks back in the day, a couple years ago. They traded a first for Nick Foligno. I think they traded who did they trade a first for last year? McCabe, I believe they traded a first for. McCabe's good, don't get me wrong, but like first round pick, I don't know. I mean, they should have honestly went for Tanev. I mean, they barely gave up anything for Tanev. The Dallas Stars. They gave up what, a couple picks, like two picks, or like a second round pick and a third round pick for Tanev. The Leafs should have done that. We all know, as we've been watching the Leafs, they played tonight against the Boston Bruins on Sportsnet live at 7:00. Go watch it. I'm going to be watching it for sure because that could be a first round matchup right there. And if that is the case, the Leafs need some good defense. We all know their defense has been very thin. They've had Morgan Riley suspended. That has also got them in a good spot where they've won 7 in a row without him. And they lose to the Vegas Golden Knights. They beat Arizona on Thursday, and then they end up beating the Rangers in a shootout. They still need defense. I think now their goaltending, I think they don't need to worry about that. They have Samsonov, who's playing really well. His confidence is there. Joseph Woll is also there if Samsonov is not going to be their guy in the playoffs. And I think they just need to go for defense. What they need to grab, I mean, Noah Hannafin would be amazing, but they need a right shot defenseman. Travis Sanheim of the Flyers would be a nice fit for them, 100%. David Savard, I heard his name being around from my Habs in these trade deadline rumors. I think they have to wow the Montreal Canadiens to get rid of him because I don't think Savard wants to leave. If the offer's right and they can get a first round pick, they'll do it. Is there anybody else? I heard Justin Hall's name as well from Elliot Freeman on the 32 Thoughts of the podcast. But they just need a defenseman. It literally could be any right shot defenseman. They added Lyubushkin. Okay, that's still not good enough. I mean, you could run with Riley McCabe and Brody on the left side. You need to get you have Liljegren, who will come back, you Lyubushkin, and then that one piece. You need one more guy. I think Savard or Sanheim are like the perfect options if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs for the trade deadline. Depth up in the bottom six, you could also try and go get a forward. I mean, I've heard like Duclair would be a nice option for the Maple Leafs. I don't think they're going to go for Adam Henrique. There's a lot of good guys that are on the market still that I think Toronto should go for. But we'll see what the Toronto Maple Leafs do. They can just go get a defenseman, a really good defenseman, maybe a couple of them, depending on how big their salaries are, and I think they'll be fine. Bertuzzi is finding his game. Domi's finding his game. Like the entire forwards are finding ways to score, especially against the Rangers, who are a very good team. And I think that's it. They just need a defenseman. Oh, one more thing. Let's talk about the Edmonton Oilers. Now, I heard they were interested in Tanev, and Tanev was like liking the idea of going there, but it ended up falling through. What do the Edmonton Oilers need? I think the forward depth is good, especially with Janmark, Perry, Fogle in that bottom six supporting that team. Derek Ryan. I think the forward group is fine. They're finding ways. Like they were really bad at the beginning of the year. They end up going on a real I want to say it was 16, 18, something like that, almost 20 game winning streak before they lost to Vegas. Sorry. But I mean, they can add a defenseman. Travis Sanheim, like I said earlier, is available. They were interested. I think they were interested in Carrier from the Nashville Predators as well, so that could be an option. But I think if the Oilers just add like a solid defenseman, I think they'll be perfectly fine the way they are because they're winning games. They're dominating against the Penguins. Their power play is third in the league after it was atrocious earlier in the year. They were not a good team. Chris Knobloch has got them playing some really good hockey. So adding a good defenseman under Paul Coffey as the defensive coach, who's an assistant on the team, he's elevated Bouchard's game. He's elevated Nurse's game. That defense is buzzing right now. They are playing really good defensive hockey. And Zach Hyman with 42 goals on the season, making $5.5 million. A 40-goal scorer making $5.5 million. I have not seen that in my time. Maybe I don't even know who it was. But I think that's the first player I've seen in my time who's making under $6 million, who's I think their leading goal scorer for the team. McDavid's got like 30 something. He's just getting apples all day. Draisaitl's having a bit of a down year, but it's good that they have depth and they have a guy like Hyman to do all the scoring. It doesn't have to be McDavid or Draisaitl scoring all the goals. And finally, the Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets. Well, I think they're frauds. I think they're going to get bounced in the first round. That's a very hot take. I get it. But Justin and I have been saying, if you can recall another podcast, and we'll probably talk about this soon, we have been saying that the Jets are frauds. I don't think they're as good as as people say they are, and I think they're going to lose first round. They're going to get upset by either the LA Kings or the Nashville Predators because all the pressure of even staying in Canada as a team because their ticket sales are just plummeting all over the place. I don't think they win a round this year. I think they're good. They're frauds. They're not as good as people say they are, and they'll lose first round. But what can they get in the deadline? They got Sean Monahan in the middle, so that is always good. But I really don't know what else the Jets could go for. I mean, they're built fine on defense, it seems, for now. The forwards are playing pretty well. I saw Morgan Barron get a nice goal against the Sabres on Sunday. Yesterday. But whatever the Jets do, it's not going to matter. I despise the Winnipeg Jets. I think they're going to lose first round to the LA Kings or Nashville Predators. Whoever they play, they're going to lose because they are frauds. And I think that's it. I think that's all for today's podcast. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Click like, click subscribe, tell all your friends, and we'll see you on the next one, hopefully with Justin this time, so we can talk more